We begin with the U.S. economy. The latest read on GDP figures for the final quarter of 2024 has come in slightly better than expected. It grew 2.4%, a slight upgrade from the previous reading. Joe Biden was president during the final quarter of 2024, but now, under Trump, there's still uncertainty ahead. But first, for more insight into the state of the U.S. economy, let's bring in Anthony Chan, former Chief Economist at JPMorgan Chase. Always good to have you on the show. Anthony, we've got final read of the first quarter GDP. Where's the U.S. economy headed to?
Well, Diego, at this point, what we see with the U.S. economy is that the first quarter could not be any more different than what we saw in the fourth quarter of last year. Now, in the first quarter, there's more uncertainty. We've seen that consumer confidence has been coming down since the fourth quarter. We see CEO confidence coming down. Business confidence in general is much lower. And of course, we have the onslaught of tariffs that are going to come in, which may reduce consumer spending as those higher prices are met by reduced demand. So the bottom line, Diego, is that we're going to see slower economic growth in the first quarter than we saw in the fourth quarter of last year, no doubt.
Anthony, while the economy still grows, right, what are the main economic drivers behind whatever is going up?
Well, right now, we have good momentum going into the first quarter. It's just that there are a lot of negative headwinds. My suspicion is that all the positive momentum that we've seen so far, including, believe it or not, a still healthy labor market. We've seen that initial unemployment claims are still quite low. We know that the unemployment rate is quite low. So even though we're seeing these negative headwinds that you have been talking about on your show, the overall momentum is still somewhat positive. So even though the economic growth is going to slow down in the first quarter, and why is it going to slow down? We know that a lot of companies are front-running the tariffs. That is, they're going to import a lot more. And as Karina mentioned a little while ago, when imports increase, that subtracts from GDP. So that's going to be a big negative headwind in the first quarter. But some of that will dissipate as you proceed into the second and third quarters of this year.
Oh, interesting. So can we expand a little bit more on the impact of a potential trade war on economic growth? Because are there risks there? Are there opportunities? How will it impact on consumers? How do you see that?
Well, historically, whenever you have tariffs and they come into a country, we know that raises the price. The good news is that corporate profit margins are pretty wide, so they can absorb a little bit of it. But all indications are that they're going to pass as much of it as they can to the consumer. Whether you hear CEOs from Target or Costco or Walmart, they're all talking about passing it on. And when they pass it on, consumers see these higher prices, and they will, in turn, spend less. And that means that rapid 4% growth in consumer spending that we saw in the fourth quarter is no longer going to be the case as you go into the first or second quarters. With these tariffs increasing prices, consumers will undoubtedly spend less, and that slows economic growth.
Anthony, changing gears here a little bit, what could mass deportations mean for industries that rely on immigrants, such as agriculture, construction, hospitality?
Well, I think it's pretty obvious that if you have massive deportations, that means there's going to be a reduction in the supply of labor. There's already shortages of labor. We still have many sectors out there that don't have enough workers. So as you reduce those workers, one of the things it does, it increases the cost of wages, but at the same time, it also restricts the ability of many businesses to basically employ as much labor as they can to meet their demands. So it's going to slow economic growth to some extent and boost wages, which again give you higher cost pressures, which tariffs are also going to do.
And the laying off federal workers, federal employees, Does it impact more like the DC, Maryland, Virginia area? Does it impact the wider economy? How are you analyzing that?
Well, a lot of studies show that when you reduce federal workers, it has a multiplier effect. And by that, I mean that for every job that you cut at the federal level, you basically cut another 2.5 to 2.6 other jobs for the rest of the economy. Why does that happen? Well, you got federal contractors. They're going to be fewer, so that's a reduction of jobs. The people that lose their jobs perhaps go less to the dry cleaners. They go less to restaurants. They travel a little bit less. Or as you mentioned, the leisure and hospitality, they will use hotels a lot less. So all that reduces jobs, and not to lose sight of the fact that when you're seeing these job contractions, it tends to put a dampener on consumer confidence, and that may lead to other consumers also getting a little bit nervous as they see the onslaught of these things. Now, with all that said, I am not forecasting a recession over the next couple of months, but I am forecasting slower economic growth.
Great insights. Thank you very much, Anthony Chan. Great having you.
Thank you.